Many have tried to tell us the future.
Nostradamus? Not quite.
The Mayans? Nope.
Hal Lindsey? Never.
Tony Jones? Oh, yeah.
The man who knows the future. You've read him at TonyJ.net. Now you get to hear him on Doug Pagitt Radio. And now, with a little glimpse of what will be, Dr. Tony Jones. Yeah!
Oh my
I made you an entire bumper.
How much time do you have on your hands?
That's incredible.
Yeah, well, all right. I don't want to brag, but I did all that in the toilet.
Well,
I did all that on the toilet,
that
literally.
was interesting.
Yeah.
You got an app that makes your voice goofy like that?
No, I had to do all that. I have to put things over my throat. I had to sit there like the person who had
Like
the
the people with
smoker's
the
disease.
stoma?
And I had to do this. No, there's
There's a guy
some
from
things.
Police Academy.
There's some things.
A helicopter.
All right, so no, I made you your own little made you your own little thing because you
amazing.
are our predictor. You're the one who tells us the way of religion and what we should expect. Now, do you have a recap? I was going to pull up a recap.
Yeah, should we look
Dr.
back?
Jones,
I've got 'em.
of last year.
I've got 'em. Ready?
In 2012, Tony Jones told us these things.
I wasn't 100%.
All right,
I've got 3 years worth. This
Yeah.
is the fourth time we've done this.
Were there 3 predictions last year?
There
or
were
5?
5 last
All right.
year. I'm only doing 3
Is
this
there an
year.
overarching percentage over the past 3 years?
I'm batting about 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Good for the
Well,
majors.
last year's prediction, number 1 was
Billy Graham will die.
what's dead Graham.
That's like the 3rd year in a row I predicted
Yeah.
that.
I think you stick with it. At some point,
It's going to happen.
No, he's surviving just to spite me.
radio narcissism. That old man won't die.
Because
All right,
of me.
number 2. So no dead Billy Graham.
Minnesota will be the first state to defeat a marriage amendment. And I was right.
Oh my gosh!
Mhm.
Ding 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 ding.
And let me
ding.
tell you, last January, that was not
it was not settled.
it was behind in every poll.
It was not settled fact.
It was a risky one. Number 3. The Presbyterian Church USA will split at their General Assembly. That's kind of half right because they didn't officially schism, but a new denomination did form.
That's right, yeah.
Right? The New Covenant Order of Presbyterians.
Oh, God.
And so they're in process. So what do you give me? Halvesies on that?
Yeah, I'll give you half.
Okay.
I'll give you 0.578.
Okay. Here we go. This one I'll leave it up to the jury.
I'm giving you 0. I'm giving you 10. I'm giving you 5.78.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Tebowing will take on new prominence when the Broncos win the Super Bowl.
Until you said that, I totally forgotten what T-bowing was.
Well,
And
okay,
I
so
thought it was
I don't
some
even know
strange
if
sexual thing
I
you
don't
do.
even know if the Broncos won the Super Bowl last year. Did they? I can't remember. I can't remember who won the Super Bowl. I can't remember.
Only
who was
Victoria
in the
was
Super Bowl.
here.
Who won the Super Bowl last year.
I don't know.
Honestly.
Google that. Somebody Google that.
How's this possible? Hang
But
on.
here's what I will say:
I'm gonna ask
Tebowing
Siri. I'm gonna ask
did
Siri.
take on bigger prominence.
Siri, who won the Super Bowl in 2012? Let's see if we can find out.
New York narrowly defeated New England by a score of 21-17 on February 5th, 2012.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it can't tell me how to get from here to the
Broncos weren't even in the Super Bowl,
to
but
the AT&T store. Literally, if I ask her where the nearest AT&T store is, where I bought this phone, she doesn't know.
But she told you that it was a narrow defeat.
But she can tell me about the
Okay.
nature of the game. The
Okay.
Giants and the Patriots. All right.
so the Broncos didn't even make it. Tim
right.
Tebow got traded. He's not a very good quarterback. However, he did copyright Tebowing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just don't know that
I'm
possible.
going to give you 3.1 for that then.
Yeah. And finally, I'd say this was a fail. Mitt Romney's nomination will bring anti-Mormon bigotry to a fever pitch. Evangelicals simply will not vote for a Mormon, ensuring Obama's reelection.
I'm giving you a -7 on that.
Obama,
Because not only was it wrong, it was opposite of wrong, which I was with you.
evangelicals did vote for a Mormon,
They voted for him.
but not in the same.
They endorsed him.
No.
More evangelicals voted for Mitt Romney than voted for
for McCain.
McCain.
And that is
More of them.
And that's the one prediction I'm disappointed didn't come true.
You wanted evangelicals to turn against their Mormon neighbors.
Look, I think the whole Mormon thing and most of the evangelical thing, they're both just completely whacked out. So let them devour themselves.
Okay.
That's just not helpful.
Now, some of my my blog. Ready for my
Mormons on
2013s?
Yes, but your average score from last year was 2.88.
Ooh,
on my ruling.
2.88.
Yeah, he'd give you -7 on the Romney one because it was opposite of right.
Well, that's I don't think you can get negative points.
Hang on, let me check with the judges on the radio show. Let me check with the radio show scoring judges.
All right.
But so
before
2013.
before we get to my
let's push this thing up.
Before we get to my predictions, I did ask some of my blog commentators to said if you leave a comment and listen, I might read it live on the air
At TonyJ.net.
Yeah, at my Pathos blog, but you can get there from TonyJ.net.
It's just much better than
it's much
Pathos / Tony Jones.
Blog / blah, blah, blah. Okay.
TonyJ.net.
Chris,
we love our friends at Pathos. Don't get us wrong.
Well,
Chris predicts
love more
that
if
there
they
will
sponsor
be
the show.
a schism in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So there will be heresy trials. There will be, it'll be a big problem. Okay.
Is there something boiling like it's on the docket?
Yes, the guy says he knows the guy who's the president, and it's that denomination is going for a schism. Okay. Rob Davis says he thinks there will be some kind of falling out or breakup in the Acts 29 church planting network.
Oh boy.
He says 2 lead pastors committed suicide last year.
Oh,
it didn't
seriously?
get and he thinks some of the more cult-like traits are starting to become more common in that church network. So that's interesting. Another guy says that another guy tries to be funny. Hugo Chavez will die. Iran will get nuclear.
But this guy's hilarious.
Obama will play 20+ games of golf. Yeah. Okay. And then another
I think
guy,
all those things are probably
tomorrow
true.
night at Chuckles.
Yeah. All right.
This guy.
All right. So we had world leaders.
and another guy says that the emergent movement will hit puberty.
Ooh.
Which means anything could
Pimples?
happen. So, all right, ready for I've got 3, only 3 this year because I thought 5 was a little much last year, and I wasn't they weren't so great. Okay, so here we go. Number 1.
These are now Tony Jones predictions
in the year in religion, 2013,
of what's going to happen in religious news.
I'm not even going after Billy Graham because it's like taking candy from a baby.
It's like snatching life from an old man.
Number 1, Rob Bell will start a new church in Southern California. And here's what I base that on. Everybody I know says Rob Bell he's done with the church, he's post-church, he's maybe even post-Christian. But he moved to Southern California. And two things I've noticed on the scene. One, he talks a lot more about churchy kind of things. He was on the Homebrewed Christianity podcast a couple months ago.
Than he did when he was a church
Oh, my
leader.
gosh. Yeah, he's like, I think they said, what if you planted a church today? What would you do? And he said, we would take communion every week. Like very religious, churchy kind of things. He's getting more interested in.
Interesting.
So that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, his show got
his television program was not picked up for production.
Not picked up for production. And then I talked to a few people who went to the filming of the pilot for his talk show.
Yeah, he was going to do a television talk show.
And the people I talked to who were there just said it really
talk shows are difficult.
Didn't work. They're super difficult.
It's hard to rally
I think it's really hard.
Your guests.
And you have to be a certain kind of person like Ellen or Larry King who's actually really, really interested in other people.
Yeah.
And Rob's interested in ideas, not so much in people, I think. That's my take. I don't know him, but that's my take. So I think he might start a church, and I think if he started a church in Southern California,
go crazy.
Oh my gosh! And it would give, because you know where he excels? On stage, live on stage in front of people.
Yeah,
not maybe on a small screen or whatever.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
So that's your guess. Are you going to give money to it if he does? If he sends out a plea? Would you
I
commit?
I don't think he'll need. I don't
would
think
you
he'll
commit
even
right
ask.
now to financial supporting the church?
I don't think he'll even ask for money.
All right, number 2. Tony Jones.
This
number
is a little
2
more.
prediction
This
of
is a
big
little more
religious
vague,
news
but
in
I've had some
2013.
vague. I've had some vague ones in the past.
Yeah.
There will be a sea change in the personnel of evangelicalism, and here's what I mean by that.
What do you mean by that?
So Christianity Today announced a new executive editor last month and the month before, Andy Crouch. Fuller Seminary is getting a new president, and so you got kind of new. You got new kind of baby boomers and Gen Xers coming into positions of power in evangelicalism, and then you've got like I think that the Franklin Graham thing over Mitt Romney and taking Mormon as a cult off the Billy Graham website really backfired on him. And then James Dobson, after Sandy Hook, did this horrible, I don't know if you guys saw, but
I didn't.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so these kind of the old guard of evangelical, like the people media go to, are now such like I don't know if they've got dementia or what, but like they're crazy. They've gone crazy.
Just go right at it.
So I think that evangelicals are going to, and Rob Bell hasn't become a standard bearer for evangelicalism. Mark Driscoll has kind of gone dark. John Piper is retiring.
Didn't you predict Francis Chan would become the new leader?
I thought Francis Chan would. I think
you just said a new leader.
I think some new leaders will emerge in 2013, and I think the media will stop going to Franklin Graham and James Dobson because it's so clear they're crazy. And it'll be very interesting to see, for instance, who Fuller picks to be their next president, and to see how if Andy Crouch changes the direction of Christianity.
Who's on the short list for that, Tony, at the Fuller thing?
I can't say, but I know a couple names.
Okay.
I mean, I would make predictions about that, or like I would make.
Nobody listens to this show.
I would make predictions about that, or I would make predictions about like. I was going to make a prediction about the future of Wild Goose, but that's a little bit like insider trading because like I know people who are in that in decision making, and so I'm not going to put out names.
Is it a woman? Is it a gay black woman? Just tell me. Just answer me that. Is it a lesbian black woman?
No.
Okay.
And we're not doing 20 questions. We're just doing one question. Okay, and number 3.
I'm totally out of options now as to who I thought it was going to be. So, all right. Number 3.
For one gay black woman on Fuller campus.
Why?
You pick her?
Okay, here we go.
The Church of England will allow female bishops. Now, here's the deal, and here's why I make that prediction. Last month,
Church of England.
I mean, in like November,
bishops.
the Church of England voted to continue their policy of now not allowing female bishops. They voted and made it, and people were. It was
in 2012. They said, we're going to stick with
Stick
the
with male bishops.
no.
People freaked out. People
women
freaked out.
as
All
bishops.
I'm like, oh, does this show you now that these denominations can't like? And people tweeted back at me, you don't understand. This was it's a loophole in the bylaws. It was a minority, blah, blah, blah. It's got to pass by 65% or 75% or whatever. And they just didn't reach that threshold. And it's just the rules. Everybody wants women bishops, but there are and it passed in the clergy house, but it lost in the lay people house, Like
Good
so,
grief.
Right? Okay. This is what these people were saying to me. Like, you don't count out the Anglicans yet. But here's my point.
We're not dead yet.
Here's why I'm at. Here's why I'm predicting this. Because then it's not legally allowed in their system of bylaws to come up for a vote again for 5 years. I'm predicting it will come up for a vote again this year.
What?
They will change the bylaws, and the reason I'm predicting this is. Because if I'm accurate, all of our friends, all these people we know who are in denominations, and they say, look, things can't change. You can't change the blah, blah, blah. You can't change Robert's Rules of Order, the bylaws. Like, this is the way it is. It takes a long time to change these things. Just be patient. And I think this is going to show, no, actually, they can change the rules whenever they want.
Yeah.
They're going to change the rules, have a new vote, and allow women bishops. Because it was so embarrassing to the Church of England.
So you're saying that the rules are that are in place are so the result of them is going to be so negative that they're just going to change the rules like Congress did with the fiscal cliff.
Exactly.
Make up their own rules, and then when they
or what Congress is going to do with the filibuster. Of course, you can change the filibuster rule.
Yeah, you can change your own rules.
You can change your own rules, and we hear from
I
people
think
all the
that's an
time.
interesting thing,
You can't change the rules, and I'm
Yeah.
like, want to bet?
Yeah.
The rules are arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
And the bureaucracy, because it came under crisis, because everyone was like, they didn't see this coming, right?
You mean everyone anticipated? Everyone anticipated that this would change.
They thought the vote would go through.
Oh yes.
So when it did,
and it passed overwhelmingly in the clergy house of Congress of the Church of England or whatever, not Episcopal Anglican, but in the layperson house, it fell 12 votes short of hitting the 2/3 threshold it needed to hit, because it's not a simple majority for whatever reason. So it's bylaw, it's ridiculous parliamentary procedure, and they'll just change the rules.
because they don't want to wait 5 years to rectify the situation.
Because it's too embarrassing. Because the bureaucracy came under crisis because of this vote, so the bureaucracy will adjust.
All right. Well, we're gonna hold you to that.
All right.
Hey, Tony, I
prognosticator.
meant to say you smell really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
What
thanks.
is? I mean, is
I
that like
just
a body
showered.
wash?
No,
or
no,
It's a
no.
hair.
It's just LA Fitness, free shampoo.
Dial.
Is that what it is?
I think it is. It's Dial soap.
From Cisco, I think, or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good job.
We've had a number of atheists here on the show.
I'm sorry.
A couple of regulars, and one of their critiques.
Not
which,
funny.
We got one right here.
Not funny people.
Which
No.
I know I like them a lot. I like those guys. But
I didn't say they're not likable. Well, I don't think they're likable, but I don't think they're funny. I don't think they're funny, nor are they likable.
well, Brian Dalton on last week. He's funny and likable. Mr. Deity, Mr.
Is he really
Deity.com
an
guy?
atheist or is hardcore?
Oh man. Oh, I mean, I even tried to put him in the category of maybe being one of the people who's anti-religion, and he straightened me up on that. He said,
Talk
no,
about cynicism, though. That
I
guy.
am non-theistic, and I
Oh.
think it's a real problem and needs to go away. But he's a hilarious fellow and
He is
very
funny.
very pleasant, very pleasant.
Is he making money on that show?
He lives off it. I mean, he's
Yeah.
living,
Oh,
he's getting
all right.
along.
Living well.
I've seen some videos from his house. Seems like it. Yeah, I mean the decor behind him.
Unlike this.
You can kind of look behind him. You can see what's back there. Like
What do you think
did he pick
people's
that up at the-
evaluation of how
think
well
they
you're
picked that up
doing
at the Pottery
from
Barn?
this?
I don't.
Doug's. It's not just this room, people. If you're watching the show for the first time, his whole house is wallpapered with banners.
Yeah,
with his name
right.
on it.
Well, I will tell you that. I mean, I don't know how people are going to judge me from the show, but I do.
I'm
have,
pretty sure.
I do have an in-home studio, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
So does Tom Bernard.
This is what I'm saying.
Rush Limbaugh?
This is what I'm saying.
So does every 17-year-old with a Mac and a guitar.
well, some of us are big timey. My atheist friends will often say the problem with you religious people is you don't have a self-correcting system. So their big critique is what you're getting at here, which is in science, which bugs me because the science is not a thing. It's a genre, right? So in different sciences, there's a self-correcting pattern. You make an assumption, you try to support that assumption, you try to defend your support of that assumption. Then when someone comes along and says, no, but it's gone wrong, it doesn't work, then it goes away, and there's a new assumption. And so these people say, but in religion, you can't do that because you have some sort of orthodoxy, you have some sort of dogma, you have some sort of scripture, you have some sort of church rule that can't change. So what you're bringing up, I think, is not only going to be a big deal for the Church of England, because you very well may be right, but I think we are quickly approaching, whether it be 2013 or not, the more regular practice of religious systems publicly self-correcting and making that a positive thing.
Well, I said,
You know what I'm saying about it being a positive thing,
yeah,
rather than,
one-
hey, I'm really sorry, we have to apologize, like
sorry about the whole Nazi thing or
yeah.
whatever.
Or for
Armstrongism did it.
or for
Yes.
Mormons,
That's right.
Armstrongism,
Mm-hmm.
Lance Armstrongism.
No, the
is it?
Southern California,
his-
the Church of
Church of God.
God worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide Church of
Worldwide
God.
Church of God. They changed. The reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints changed.
Well, yeah.
Now are called the Community of Christ, and they were trying. They're
Yeah.
Orthodox evangelical. They've kind of. It does happen.
Well, the
on
Southern
occasion.
Baptist changed. The
Oh,
Mormon
come-
Church.
The Southern Baptist. Seriously. Those people?
Yeah. Absolutely. They've changed. I mean, they were.
Yeah, they used to be pro-slavery.
They used to be pro-slavery, and now they're not. Like that's a pretty
Oh,
significant.
well, good on them.
That's a pretty significant shift.
Yeah,
I know
but
they got a
that's-
black guy
but
leading
look,
them. Come on.
That
now, please.
I don't give them that. That's not to the same level of a church
Well-
changing their orthodox beliefs.
Well,
there's
it
no-
was the organizing principle.
I
don't
agree,
know
but
who
there's
wants to defend
there,
the Southern
there's not a
Baptists, not this kid.
single church. There's not a single denomination that still holds to slavery.
Right.
there-
Which I would suggest. But normally what happens is people have to have these huge explanations and workarounds for religious people as to why did we change. Because sameness has been the hallmark of religion, right? Everything else in society and world changes, but religions don't. So you might be onto something where if it gets outed so clearly, look, these systems, they're ours. Why are we beholden to something that we can trace back and know who started it?
I predicted 2 years ago, and it did not come to fruition. It's one that I got wrong, that the Catholic Church would announce a major doctrinal change. Like they're going to say that, that they would say something like, Jesus' actual DNA is not in that wafer you're putting on your tongue.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And you weren't satisfied with the Jesus wasn't born in December of year one.
No. That's not a major doctrinal change.
Yeah, that's just a...
But...
I mean, it is for a lot.
It'll be interesting. Like, for instance, some evangelical denomination is going to be the first domino to fall on the gay issue and say, you know what, we're going to allow gay clergy. Now, you might say the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America did that. But evangelicals would say, well, they're not really evangelical; they're mainline.
Yeah, right.
But they're pretty evangelical, actually. I mean, Lutheran theology is quite evangelical with a small e. So maybe they were the first, but they're going to start to fall. And are they going to admit we were wrong in the same way isn't it fascinating?
This is the shift. This is the big shift that you're talking about. Like the difference between, hey, whoopsie daisy, we realize something caused a significant adjustment or change, versus, hey, this is a really good thing. We realized there was a problem. We've corrected it, and now we're way better off, and we hope to do that again in the future.
Like we're going to celebrate our changing.
That's what I think could be on the horizon for religion, because religion can't hold out very much longer as being the stalwart of assumption.
You know what's interesting, though?
Not going to do well.
But here's what's interesting. So I taught at a seminary in town here that started, allowing gay students in the 70s, and we're very vocal about that. And there, you go up there now to that seminary, and they're kind of like, doesn't everybody know we were, 40 years ago we were doing this?
Yes.
Why don't we get the credit we deserve? And
for being
we're way
leaders
out
and
ahead of the
innovators,
game, and this kind of thing. It doesn't in religion.
Maybe it's all the whining.
Maybe. I mean, in religion, you don't always get rewarded in the religious system for being the first to change.
That's right, for being the entrepreneur of change.
You get ostracized. Now, some people, like Martin Luther pulled it off, John Calvin pulled it off, Menno Simons, like some of the first people on the bell curve of innovation made it. Other people got burned at the stake,
But didn't they, and you would know more about this than I with your Ivy League education and your PhD, isn't it the case that in their time, these kinds of innovators weren't generally heralded? In fact, they were considered the enemies and were making enemies out of others, and lived quite frustrated and arduous religious existence.
Here's the thing.
All these big religious change.
The answer is yes and no, because.
Well, just tell me the yes part.
Because
I don't have time for that.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I have a couple atheist friends that I debate about science and whatever, and what they seem incapable of understanding.
Oh boy,
is that science?
Hang on. Do it like this. What these people seem to be incapable of understanding. Yeah, that's a radio show.
Is that science undergoes this? The whole the phrase paradigm shift.
It's a sign. Yeah,
was developed by a historian of science who looked at how science changes.
Yeah,
and science changes by there's
death at a time is the phrase.
That's right. Yeah. There's like a big community of scientists who believe the one thing.
Yep.
And then a couple break off, a couple more young, innovative scientists break off. Some of the old guard start to die. A couple of the old guard jump ship to the new group until there's a tipping point or whatever, a paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift. Yep.
And then the Earth isn't the center of the universe anymore.
Right.
So the Copernicus was excommunicated. Copernicus was banished from the scientific community, but one by one, scientists and then others died off of the. I don't think.
But I mean,
religion is any different than that.
I think that's very much the case. The difference is, I think they have the same history. I think religion develops in the same way. The difference is that in the science world, they tell the story that constancy of change and update is
good news.
And is normative.
Right.
It's not as normative as they make it sound, and it's not always taken as such good news. But the story is written in such a way that you get to tell it like that. Where religion, you're always having to explain yourself religiously as to why you're not holding to the traditional
Yeah,
view
I mean,
any longer.
But it's
and
not.
that seems like the big shift that has to happen. Not what do we change on, but how do we view religion as a force of changing thought or a force of continuous
One of
thought?
the questions is whether the innovators can gather enough people around them to get critical mass so that they can continue. Because, like, Jan Hus wasn't able to, and the Hussites,
Right.
like Jan
Yeah.
Hus was burned at the stake, and the Hussites died out. But
Yeah, nobody
Luther
could
was,
spell it, yeah.
even though he was in the minority and the Vatican was against him, he was what he wrote right off the bat. Enough people were like, "That's it," that they joined in with him. And so the innovators, they can't be solo. They have to at least gather. It's got to be a little bit sticky, and other people have to come around and go, okay, the way you're talking about God and spirituality and truth. Same with Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus was in the minority against the Pharisees and all the Roman Empire, but he had enough followers that he didn't just vaporize into the mists of history,
Well,
right?
And he was resurrected from the dead. in
Well,
bodily
I
form
mean, that
along with a lot
helps,
of
right?
people, but
That helps.
Anyway,
makes a big difference.
what is it? What is it about these denominational beliefs that become inerrant in the minds of those who hold to them? Because it seems like, okay, like if you believe that they're trying to draw this structure and this understanding from Scripture, but yet there needs to be this like human interface, and it seems like that's what doctrine would be. You know, the connecting of this
yeah, but
human
what religion
practice.
has tended to do, not so much Catholicism per se, but even though I think it really does this, is to say what the human interface does is to remove the obstacles that kept you from seeing the ultimate authority that was there all along. As opposed to, no, this is a better way to see it, and I want you to join in to this way. So they're going to claim an authority that comes from having made it more pure. Almost every religious tradition catches its footing by saying, this is the more pure way, this is the better way, this is the more right way. So rather than owning up to your cultural, linguistic, societal input, you try to downplay that to say, oh, now we're able to see more clearly the ultimate authority that was there the whole time. So now I'm actually in line with that very authority that you've always seen yourself to be in line with. And I think that's part of what makes religion has wanted to call upon an outside authority for its its validation.
But doesn't like these doctrines and these understandings, weren't they like, you know, built in a particular historical context, and don't they suffer from like the evolution of time, like, you know, the Southern Baptists and slavery has fallen out of favor. You know, they decided to eject that. You know, I mean, don't they suffer from aren't they all kind of doomed to the same sort of atrophy that'll happen as time kind of moves forward and enlightenment increases? Or
yeah, well, you would someone like me would sure think so. And you could even look back and say, even the kinds of consistent theological perspective that people want to say they hold to, that they would want to track all the way back through time, that there's always been people who've held these beliefs all the way back to the time of the early followers,
Origin,
you know,
right.
and whether you want to go behind Jesus or after Jesus or before Jesus or not, that people will track all the way. You can't actually make that argument very well, right? You can't make an argument that, oh, well, the way a 21st century educated person thinks about religion right now is really fundamentally precisely how people thought about it in other times. So you make up a kind of mythology about that, about kind of the essence of it. And the problem with religion is that it's seen its heyday when stability was seen as more valuable. And we now live in an age in which change is seen as more valuable.
Let me just add a little footnote to that before I go. That is something that those of us on the progressive side of the ledger need to be aware of, a caveat, if you will. The Nazis called themselves progressive. I mean, the Nazis said we are
reaches into the bag for the biggest hammer.
They were the
Before I go, let me bring up
They were the
Hitler.
progressive party, and they looked at Jews, for
There you
instance,
go.
and were like, That is an ancient, primitive people. They mutilate their penises. They're connected to this old god and this old book. It's just so archaic. We are enlightened.
And they were scientific advancement.
We're purer. We have evolved beyond that.
Yeah, right. They took Darwinism and modern day science of that day.
They were doing scientific experiments on people.
Yeah, it's a big critique.
So I'm just saying, we need to be somehow our progressive ideals need to be chastened by the fact that progression for progression's sake can be dangerous.
Why, Tony Jones?
Right.
Listen to you.
It's not a.
I'm just not as predictable as you might think.
I know. What is this? What's the compassionate conservative? This is a compassionate progressivism.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Tony Jones,
thanks for having me.
Your predictions. Rob Bell is going to start a new church. Christianity Today and the other evangelical stalwarts are going to have a sea change in their leadership, and the Church of England is going to let the ladies do the bishop things. All right. Hey, how about a little commercial for the work you're doing over at Spark House? What are you guys putting out over there? You guys putting out you're putting out a video curriculum.
I see him a weekly stream of people employed by Spark House coming to my restaurant.
Yeah,
that's right.
I know.
Pizzeria Lola.
Tony's must be doing something.
Pizzeria Lola is the spot.
Yeah. What are you guys doing? Tell the good listeners.
We launched in August Animate video curriculum for churches and adults, and
now it's not just for Japanese.
Right. It's not anime.
Oh,
it's Animate.
Okay, but there are drawings and cartoons as a part of it
by a non-Japanese cartoonist.
Yeah. Okay.
You might even know him.
Animate, not anime.
Right.
All right.
And now we're filming round 2, which is 7 sessions on the Bible.
And what are these? For people who don't know, give us the 20-30 second.
Well, if you're if you go to a faith community and you want to be involved in some kind of small group learning experience where you go over 7 weeks and you watch a 6-minute video, and then you have a journal where you write your ideas and thoughts, and you talk about it in a group, and there's a leader with a leader guide.
So there's a curriculum for
we
people.
call it a curriculum. We call it a congregational resource. Yeah.
And people get get video. They get some insightful thinking. They get the best of early 21st century thinkers.
They get some of the top thinkers who are kind of out on the front edge of what Protestantism is going to be.
What does this thing run somebody if they were going to pick up the?
I don't know. It's
like $100.
No,
$500
the journal. The DVD's like $80. I think the other pieces are $12.99 or something.
Yeah. I mean, so
it's like right in the ballpark of what a church, what a small group curriculum goes for.
Yeah.
It's probably a little more than a Beth Moore Bible study, and it's a lot better value.
Animate.
Ba-dum-bum.
Thank you, Tony Jones. Nice to have you.
Good to
nice
be
to
here.
have you on the show.
Good to be
of
in
course.
The home studio.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You smell really good too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Tony Jones, smelling good and selling Beth Moore competition. Hey, we'll be back here after the break with not only the Right On, but a little commentary.